By my clock, it is now 4 o'clock, and I'm Bill Trussheim, and I'm the president of the New Jersey Alliance for Social, Emotional, and Character Development. And I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar called Reducing Stress, Dealing with Differences or Building Community. Character is the answer. What we're going to do today is to go through a number of different activities, actually, three main ones. We're going to have a keynote conversation, 2 breakout sessions, and a closing. But before we do that, I think it's only appropriate for us to observe a moment of silence in memory of those who were killed and affected by the Uvalde shooting last week. So I'd like to ask you to join me in just a moment of silence, thinking about not only them, but anyone who has suffered from a violent shooting in a school or otherwise in our country. Certainly a problem, and so I invite you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Thanks. I think that talking about this topic today and doing this work in social, emotional, and character development is kind of the antithesis of those things that are happening in the world that are such great concern. So I think that, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who is on this webinar, who is actively involved in doing this work, because I'd like to think it was an antidote to all of those things. And I think in some cases it is, but it's not the total answer. I think it would be naive of us to think that what we're doing is, removes the possibility of these bad things happening in schools that we work with. So I think it's important for everybody to continue to do the work and to be vigilant and make every effort that one can to develop a school culture and a climate, to build character strengths and social emotional learning skills that will help to make that school environment one where it's less likely for these things to happen. We cannot guarantee that they couldn't possibly happen, but reducing the likelihood is certainly a very apt goal for us to have. And I want to review the agenda before we actually get into it. Our first piece today is a keynote conversation, and we're very fortunate to have 3 leaders in this field who are going to have a conversation for us to witness about various aspects of social, emotional, and character development, perhaps over the years with a kind of a historical perspective, as well as some information and some recommendations for today. Following that session, we're going to have 2 breakout sessions. Each of them is based on 5 topics, and you'll be able to choose to be in 2 different breakout sessions during the course of this afternoon's webinar. Following the second breakout, we will have a short closing. And one of the things that I just want to mention to everyone is that we will have this information available through our NJASECD website. So you're not going to be able to see all 5 of the sessions today. You'll only be able to see 2 of them, but you'll be able to see resources and a video from each of the 5 sessions after the fact. So we hope that will allow you to choose wisely for the 2 sessions that you're going to pick, and that you're knowing that you'll be able to see something about all 5 of them after the fact. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining us today. And I'd particularly like to thank those of you who have been involved in planning these sessions and putting them together, as well as Jim and Matt from New Jersey PSA, who are handling the technology for us this afternoon. So with that introduction, I'd like to move on to our keynote conversation. And it's my pleasure to be able to introduce to you our three participants in the conversation. First of the three is Dr. Nathan Fisher, who is currently the superintendent of schools in the Roselle Public Schools. He's a former principal of the Kindergarten Success Academy, and that was a 2020 National School of Character. In that school, he implemented numerous character education and SEL initiatives. Dr. Fisher's received professional accolades throughout his career, including the Citation Award from Phi Delta Kappa, a Geraldine Dodge Fellowship Grant for Principal Leadership, a Community Service Award from the National Council of Negro Women, the NAACP Roselle Branch Role Model Award, and the Roselle Chamber of Commerce Principal of the Year Award. Additionally, he serves as an adjunct professor at Kean University, the Graduate School of Educational Leadership, and he is also a New Jersey Leaders to Leaders mentor for new principals and directors. Next, we have Dr. Phil Brown, who has been a partner with Character.org since its beginning in 1993. First in his role as in the New Jersey Department of Education, where he developed the New Jersey Character Education Network, and later at Rutgers University, where he created and directed the Center for Social and Character Development through a research grant from the U.S. Department of Education. During the last 2 years of that grant, NJASACD was established as an independent nonprofit organization to continue to nurture and support the Schools of Character program. The first state level recognition program was piloted in New Jersey and was then adopted nationwide by Character.org. Phil is a developmental psychologist and has published books and articles throughout his career. He currently serves as a senior consultant for the National School Climate Center and president of the International Center for Assault Prevention. And he's a member of the initiating team establishing SEL for US and the affiliate for the state of Colorado. Last but not least, Dr. Maurice Elias is a professor in the psychology department at Rutgers, and he's the director of the Social, Emotional, and Character Development Lab, also at Rutgers. He's co-director of the Rutgers-based Academy for SEL in Schools, which offers online certificates in SEL instruction and school leadership, and is a member of the leadership team for both SEL for US and SEL for New Jersey. He received the Joseph E. Zins Memorial Senior Scholar Award for Social Emotional Learning from CASEL, the Sanford McDonald Award for Lifetime Achievement in Character Education, and he is a lifetime member of NJASECD. Dr. Elias is a prolific writer and an internationally recognized authority on social, emotional, and character development as a thought leader in this field. So I'd like to thank Nathan, Phil, and Maurice for agreeing to have a conversation out in public for us today, and I look forward to what they have to say. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen so you can see them instead of just this picture. So if you'll bear with me for just a second. Okay, I'd like to invite Nathan to moderate this discussion. So I'll turn it over to you, Nathan, and thanks again for helping us with this.
Great. Thank you, Bill. And let me just thank everyone from NJASECD. You know, it's just a great opportunity to be here with my fellow doctors, Phil and Maurice, as we engage in some great conversation around social emotional learning and character development. It's just something I'm very passionate about, and I just want to be able to share with these colleagues that are on this this webinar today, because there's a host of information. Hopefully there'll be some takeaways that we can embark upon this work. So I guess we'll jump right into it, because we know time gets away from us as we get excited in this work. So I'll just come out the gate with, and just start the conversation with, as we talk about this this social emotional character development work that we're all engaged in. I just want to point out that there's some things that remain the same and some things that remain different in this field of character education and social emotional work. Maurice and Phil, if you can just start, if you can talk from those points, we can get this conversation going and see where we can bridge that type of information.
Sure, I'll be happy to kick us off, Nathan. First of all, appreciation to NJASECD and Bill for your long leadership in the field and in our organization. First, I think something that really hasn't changed are the developmental needs of children. just the institutional context and the nature of the demands on educators from the public and government history, and in the name of COVID in the last couple of years, and of course the political battles. That's what's changed. The universal needs for children and adolescents to grow in autonomy, belonging, and competence, which are featured, by the way, is the core of the 11 Principles framework, remain a solid foundation for improving policies and strategies. A personal note to illustrate this, knowing that in these kind of things, people remember stories often more than they do concepts. I'm proud to say that the first of my 7 grandchildren graduated from high school yesterday, and that's as it should be. But Hazel has gifted me not only with helping to better understand high functioning autism, but also with a late coming out as a trans person. Hazel has challenged outdated stereotypes and caused me to re-examine some of my old assumptions as well. That's different. I'm having a heck of a time remembering that it's their, not his or her. And of course, it goes a lot deeper than that. So what's the same is responding to these primary human developmental needs. Our growing understanding of the many rich and different variations we humans represent, and how caring about each other is so important. A message at the heart of the Schools of Character process and common to character education, SEL, and school climate improvement strategies as well. Maurice, take it away.
Yeah, well, you know, it just to share a personal story. My 10-year-old grandson, now 11, came home from school and said he was learning SEL in East Windsor, and that his teacher mentioned my name, and he said, "Oh, I know that. I know that's my papu." So that's different. What's different is that this area of social, emotional, and character development is, I think, it's starting to reach more and more people. And that's important because I think what's also different is that we are realizing that what we've been talking about isn't a fringe, isn't an add-on. It is something that is born in all of us. We are all born with social, emotional, and character competencies. And it's not a program that creates it. It's not an ideology. It's us. This is what enables us to live in the world. Then the big question comes, how do we live in the world? And here I want to share a quote from Arthur Schwartz, who's the president of character.org, whom I met when we were doing work with Plainfield, and he was at the Templeton Foundation. He says, character gives SEL its why. Character gives SEL its why. See, I think that's very different. I think we now realize that without the why, those skills are not necessarily a blessing. That in fact, we really want to have kids that have good character. And that's probably the most important thing that they can have. And the other thing that I think has been in front of us all the time, that now we realize, is the role of emotion. That you know, in the old days, I think people thought that kids would come into the school, they put their books in the cubby, they put their jackets in the cubby, they put their emotions in the cubby, and then they go throughout the school day. But we know better, we know differently now. We know that their emotions not only go with them all the time, but lead. So this is not just about the kids' skill in managing their emotions. This is about whether the school is a place that from the moment they step in the door, the emotions that we're conveying to them are positive. The emotions of caring, emotions of kindness, emotions of confidence, emotions of support. I don't think we are as clear about all that as we are right now. So I'm seeing some important nuances of difference that are evolving along.
Thank you, Maurice and Phil. You guys definitely have hit it on the head in regards to the importance of social emotional character development. Could you perhaps share with us one or two core values that you think are important and perhaps related to the Castle framework that you can relate in your work. Perhaps do a very short story.
Sure. I already mentioned caring. Integrity and perseverance are two that I would point to. And I think, in fact, that we're at the heart of what enabled us to successfully start and maintain this organization that we're part of now. As Bill mentioned in the introduction, many of you present probably didn't know that New Jersey played a role in establishing the social SOC program and opening the field so that more schools could participate in grounding their improvement work in core values. And this happened, it took some real perseverance to get this done. Following a dialogue with then the Character Education Partnership Board in 2005, we offered to pilot a state SOC program. And by that time, we knew that we had more New Jersey schools that deserved recognition, but the process at that point only allowed for selecting just 10 national schools of character. And by persevering and making our case to the board, we shifted the goal of the SOC program from a competition certifying 10 national SOCs as models to validating and recognizing the work of all schools that do this work well and want to apply. And I really think that these values apply not just to individuals, but also to our organizations. And that's why, as a bedrock for the program, I think it's been so effective over time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Nathan, I think that it's interesting you asked the question about referring to the Castle Five. To me, the Castle Five don't really represent core values. Occasionally values sort of slip in there, but they're I think of them as skills. I think of problem solving as a skill. And I think of emotion management as a skill. When I think of values, I think of that directionality. And so I want to nominate two. One is compassion. Now, I'm a big fan of empathy, but we got a lot of people who are empathic and they sit with their empathy and don't do anything with it. But compassion, to me, drives you to act on your empathy. And this is what we need now. And that relates to my second core value, which is service. I've seen service do the most extraordinary things. I've seen service transform special education kids that are thought, because they're special education, how can they do service? But in fact, every single one of us is put here to serve in some capacity. And Martin Luther King Jr. said, everyone can be great because everyone can serve. He didn't say most of us could be great because most of us could serve. Some of us could be great because he said everyone can be great because everyone can serve. There is always somebody that you can help. And I think that value needs to be imbued in our schools. And of course, this is what we all do, but I just want to underline this, because if we're going to create a better society than the one that we seem to have right now, it's going to happen because our young people are able to act on their compassion. Our kids have a lot of compassion. Before it gets socialized out of them, they need to act on it, and they need to act on it by serving. And we need to give more opportunities for service, not just in the community, but in the classroom, in the schoolyard, in the lunchroom. Every kid should have the opportunity to engage in meaningful, authentic service learning. And I think that is what's going to sow the seeds of a transformed society, if anything does.
Wow, great point. It's a great segue, Maurice, into my next pointed question. Schools that are grounded in these core values, it's usually fertile ground to plant seeds for this work. What type of advice would you give any school that's at that beginning stage of implementing character education or socio-emotional initiatives.
As you just suggested, Nathan, building a pro-social school culture is done by leaders who had sound pedagogy with institutionally aligned core values, which democratize the way in which the school operates, not by purchasing programs off the shelf and hoping for the best. So that's my first point. I would recommend that you reach out to another school and have your whole characterization team make a site visit and then reciprocate, whether you're just beginning a journey or even if you're an NSOC. That's of immense value. And we found that to be very helpful when you get that open collegial interchange between school teams. And then I guess two final points, which are, I guess, kind of recommendations based on years in the trenches. Never underestimate your ability to be a significant influence in other people's lives and make a meaningful, positive difference in their lives. Most teachers who've been in the profession for a while and have cared well for children know this, and it's simply the best. And don't ever underestimate the willingness and ability of other people to support and assist you in your own personal and professional journey.
Nathan, if you don't mind, I'm trying to, I'm speculating, what if we had in our conversation an actual living, breathing, functioning superintendent of schools that was trying to bring SEL into a district, let's say a district at random, let's say Roselle. I'd be very interested to hear, as you're embarking on this journey with your schools and in your district, what are some of the key driving points that you're holding on to as you're doing this work?
Well, that's great, Maurice. I have to say, serving, as a principal of a school that had, reached the National School of Character status, one of the things I really focused on in that role was to ensure that we were doing meaningful programming and intentional programming. And I wasn't looking to have programs that were just add-ons. I never wanted to have an add-on program. I wanted to make sure that, I made a priority to ensure that this work was across the entire school atmosphere, the school culture. So it was embedded in our day-to-day practices. As I stand in this role as a superintendent, one of the things I've begun to do was to review our programs across the entire district and begin to look at our policies and our procedures and our cultures of our school and really look for opportunities to ensure that we integrate these core values across all grade levels. And it's been very interesting because, again, of course, you look for continuity across your district. You look for things that are happening naturally. And it's very exciting to see that there are some pockets of character development that are happening, not just for compliance purposes, but because they're intentional. You have folks who just believe in the ability to supplement the culture of the schools by having some character development in our youngsters. So I've been working a lot on policy, just looking at policies from A to Z and trying to ensure that it's embedded across our practices and keeping it in the conversation. And even from a leadership space, ensuring that, that any relationships that we have with students and adults, and even adults to adults, focus on, ensuring that, there's character development there. I mean, people think that you get to a certain level that it's not necessary, but we have to continue to foster that type of belief in the process. And one of the things I'm hopeful of as we start with our youngsters, as they transition from grade to grade, that they take these same skill sets from students to adulthood. So I'm very excited to embark upon this work. I believe in it. Again, when I became involved in this work early on, I just realized there was a need for it, and it changed the culture in the school. It changed the relationships. We're seeing kids who are self-regulating their behaviors, and those types of things are really life skills. You can take this stuff with you into adulthood. So I'm looking to foster that and build that and to run parallel with, not just parallel with the things that we're doing that are known, but the unknown. This is like a fabric. I just want it to be woven within everything we do. So even in the superintendent's role, I don't forget about it. I tell every school across the district to share some of the highlights, and we share as practitioners, in these types of forums, but it's very important that we identify and recognize and celebrate those great things that are happening in the character development space. So I appreciate you asking that. And my work is not done. I'm still working, even with my board members, to understand that character development is important. It's not just a theme. It's not just a trendy topic. It's something that is necessary. And we use reference to tragedies that are happening across the country. And we wonder, what's happening within our classroom space. So can we do something a little different? And I use this as a platform to kind of support and bridge that in terms of my service in this role.
Well, I just, you underscore so many great points, one of which was, as Phil was saying, the importance of sharing, the importance of sharing with other schools and being mentored by other schools, connecting to other schools and districts. But I would just want to underline one thing you said about authenticity and meaningfulness. In my career, I never tried to do SEL training. I try to do SEL sharing, because this is not something that we want to train people in. It's something we want people to live and understand authentically and deeply. And so that's one thing that I would urge folks, and most of the folks who are here, I know this, is that we can't be in a rush to do this work, that it takes time and it has to have deep roots. Those deep roots are what keeps it from blowing away when the wind and the floods and everything else come along. The SEL with deep roots stays there. We can hold on to it, and it'll keep us alive. And I think that links to this whole idea of whenever any of us are implementing this work, we have to know our purpose. Why are we doing this? We have to have a deep purpose for this. We have to understand its importance in creating our future society. And as you say, we're giving our kids gifts that they're going to use their entire life. And so, of course, we have to do this with intentionality, coordination, and we also have to help our kids see their sense of purpose in the world. Because at the end of the day, if they're going to carry this with them, they have to carry it to a destination. What's their destination? Well, the destination is their purpose. And too many kids are coming to school not knowing why they're there, other than they have to go. But every one of our kids has a higher purpose in being there. And we need to help our kids discover that purpose. We need to help our staff recognize that their purpose is to help the kids discover their purpose. And in doing that, we elevate what we're doing to something well beyond a program. It's certainly not a fad, but something with deep roots that can literally be the anchor of our society.
Well, I couldn't agree with what you just laid out, Nathan and Maurice more. And I always think that, schools are microcosms, they're micro societies. And that's where children first learn in a public space what it means to be with other people and learn together and do together. And that's a model that we sorely need now, schools to embrace as fundamental to their purpose. And it's been great spending this time with treasured colleagues like Maurice and a new treasured colleague, you, Nathan.
Phil and Maurice, I really want to thank you too. It's been a marvelous experience just having conversations leading up to today's presentation. And one of the things that I continue to take away, this is ongoing work, and it's not, it's truly a heavy lift in these days and times, because you have to continue to, push and forge ahead in this space. So I want to thank you two guys and bringing that wealth of knowledge and information. And I certainly will, be in contact in regards to work moving into the future in regards to what we're attempting to do in my district. And Bill, I just want to thank you also, because again, we've had some very in-depth conversations leading up to today's session. And I'm very excited that we have this many practitioners that are on board who believe in the work, who are committed to the work and are looking to push this work forward. So again, I want to thank you guys for the work that you do and the commitment. And surely for those who I haven't had an opportunity to formally meet, surely reach out to me. I'm in the Roselle School District, so I can easily be found, and we can connect and share some best practices, because that's what it's all about, best practices and being able to share what works.
I'd like to take a moment, and I'd like to thank Nathan and Phil and Maurice for a tremendous conversation. This was an idea that we we floated around months ago. And, we thought it was going to be good, and we were right. It was. And I just want to let everyone know that that I've been recording this. So this will be available on our website so that you can look at it in greater detail. So that was really the first piece of our activity today. And the second piece of our activity, I'm going to share my screen again. If you just give me a second. This is breakout session 1. And there are 5 different topics that actually there were 6, but we had a glitch with one of them. But we have 5 different topics that are available to you today: civic character, community and relationship building, diversity, equity and inclusion, stress and mindfulness, and student engagement through service learning. And you can see who's presenting what on this slide. And what I'm going to do in just a second is I'm going to turn this over to Matt and to Jim, who are going to actually allow us all to choose our breakout rooms. So please just note that these are the rooms, and decide which breakout you would like to attend for breakout session 1. And then you'll have an opportunity in about a half an hour to choose what you would like to participate in for breakout 2. So I'm gonna turn it over right now to Jim and Matt, and we'll be on to the second part of our activity this afternoon.
That sounds great. Thanks, Bill. Matt, you're on.
Okay, I think everybody should be back now, and I'd just like to take a minute before we go to our very last activity to thank the people that you see whose names appear on the screens for each of the 5 breakout sessions: Mona and Lee, Pat, Cindy and Tom, Mary and Lori, Karen and Karma, and Eileen, and I was also participating. This has been a work that's been in progress really since the beginning of 2022. And so I'd like to thank everyone for their efforts in putting this together. And I hope that for the participants and for the people who were able to view these sessions, that you found it to be worthwhile and informative. Again, I'm going to remind you that shortly, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, the recording for this webinar, really the beginning and the ending anyway, will be available on the NJASECD website. When you go there, you will also see a link to the Bitmoji room. Now, the Bitmoji room, which you may have gotten to see as you participated in the breakouts, is the place where you can see the videos from all 6 breakouts, as well as access the resources for each of the 6. And I'd like to just take a minute and recognize Lori Coletti, because Lori was the one who put this all together for us. Lori, would you like to say a word or two about it?
Thank you, Bill. I can't really take any credit for it. I didn't know how to do a Bitmoji room, but I persevered. I asked plenty of people in my building. I had a great tutor and all of you, every one of you, sent wonderful things for me to use and make links and put up. And it really it came together. It was really a team effort. So thank you so much, Bill.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lori, because what that does is that allows us to actually make this available after the fact, which is triply important. Number one, because you can always go back and look at what you already saw and get the resources for that. Secondly, you can look at the ones that you didn't yet see. And thirdly, that'll be available for anybody who goes on the website and clicks the link. So hopefully everybody's work that was put into creating these will be worthwhile for a whole lot longer than just today's hour and a half. So I'd like to thank all of you for that. In closing today, I'd like to thank all of you for participating. As I said, all the videos and the resources are going to be in the Bitmoji room. We hope that you found this to be useful and informative. We're going to send you an evaluation form that we'd like to ask for your feedback on this experience today. When you fill out your evaluation form, we will send you your certificate of participation for this afternoon. One of the things I'd like to say about our organization is that we're an all-volunteer organization. That goes from Maurice Elias to Phil Brown to Nathan Fisher to everybody else who participated today. Everybody who works with our organization does so because they understand the importance of this work. And I'm going to circle back to what I first said when we opened up today, that the work that we do in schools to promote character strengths, to promote social emotional skills, and to help schools build a positive school culture and climate is one way that we can help make those schools a better place for everybody that is in touch with them: students, teachers, staff, parents, and community. And that's what we do. And we do it because we believe the work is important. So we invite you to become a volunteer with us for NJASECD. There are lots of ways that you can serve. You can attend meetings if you wish. You can be a scorer. You can be an evaluator. There's lots of things you can do. So if you're interested in taking on a role like that, please feel free to contact us at njsecd@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you. So with that said, again, I'd like to thank everybody who was involved today. And I would be remiss if I didn't give another shout out to Nathan, Phil, and Maurice for their terrific opening session. And I know for one, I'm going to go back and watch that again myself. So I hope you will all do the same. I'd like to thank Lee Klein. Lee was instrumental in organizing the registration process for today and getting the information out. And Lee's going to be instrumental in getting you the evaluation forms and sending out the certificates. So Lee is a perfect example of a volunteer. She works behind the scenes. She does a lot of work for us, and we all totally appreciate everything she does. So Lee, thank you. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to everyone again. And I hope you enjoyed it. And that really ends our webinar today. So thanks for being here. Take care.
Thank you,
Have a
Bill.
great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good to be with everybody.